Okay, YouTube, welcome to Dwarf Fortress 2014 with the Flying Phent. This is a 100 subscriber special for me, and it's going to be a tutorial on how to get up and running with Dwarf Fortress. I wanted to do something a little bit different. I know for my part, I watched a lot of Dwarf Fortress episodes before I ever played the game, and then when I did first play it, it was disappointing, I'll say, because I didn't really understand that there were multiple ways to get the game, to install the game, and those can drastically change the playability. So I wanted to kind of do a quick little tutorial. I say quick, it's not going to be quick. I'm sure it's going to be quite verbose. But I want to do a little bit of a tutorial for anyone who might be in that position and who's not quite sure how to get up and running. Now, all this information was available previously, but for older versions, I haven't seen a version for 2014 yet myself. That doesn't mean one doesn't exist. If you know of a better tutorial, please leave a comment below. And if that will help people out, then that would be great. People don't have to see my tutorial. I really would love people to get into Dwarf Fortress if they're not already. So this is a tutorial on how to download, how to install, and kind of some very basics on how to get up and running with Dwarf Fortress with a little bit of extra information that I think is going to be useful. So let's hop right into it. First off, how do you get Dwarf Fortress? Well, a lot of people, myself included, when they first want it, they just go to Google, they search for Dwarf Fortress, they see a link here that says DF2014 games, it says download, they click on the, if they're on Windows, they download Windows, or Linux, they'll download Linux or what have you, and they go from there. I really don't recommend doing that. Here's what I suggest you do. If you're on Windows, search for the Dwarf Fortress Starter Pack. If you're on Mac, search for the Dwarf Fortress McNewbie. And if you're on Linux, search for Dwarf Fortress Linux Lazy Noob Pack. Okay, so there's several options. I'm running Windows, so I myself am going to go for the starter pack. Usually you'll see a link somewhere in one of the top 2 or 3. That's a DF2014 forums link, and that will discuss kind of the pack. So in this case, the starter pack, you can see here's the details about it. Of course, donations if you want to donate, all that type of good stuff too. Downloads, previous versions. So a lot of information here. And these threads are pretty extensive. You can see it's 148 pages, a lot of details about it. But to download it, you want the DFFD link, which is the Dwarf Fortress File Depot. You click on that, and then there's just one download button. Now, because I use the starter pack extensively, I'm going to give a big shout out here to Paradexis Errant, who does the Dwarf Fortress starter pack. Excellent work, sir. Or madam, I'm not quite sure, but excellent work. Appreciate your efforts, and I think this is a fantastic pack. So you go ahead and click download now, and that's going to download the files for you into wherever you stick your downloads. For me, that's going to go straight into my downloads folder. You can see it right here. And the nice thing that I like about it is it's just one folder. Everything is self-contained. You can see there's a lot inside there, but if you just open the zip, it's just one folder. So you're going to want to extract that folder anywhere. For me, I'm just going to open this in a new window right here. All right. And I'm just going to drag and drop right there. I'm just going to put it right in my downloads. I don't even care. That'll be fine with me. That is going to take a while. You can see there is some unzipping going on. But that's fine. While it's doing that, let's just take a peek at some other information. If we move on, you're going to need to get information a lot about Dwarf Fortress. It is really hard. So I highly recommend you Google Dwarf Fortress Wiki, or just go to dwarffortresswiki.org, whichever one you prefer, and bookmark this page. You're going to use this page a lot. If you're new, again, there is a download and install entry here that tells you how to go ahead and get the to pick it up. You also have links here to Paradexis Errant's starter pack, to Frizzy's McNewbie, and to Botato's Linux Lazy Noob Pack. So there you go. There are also links to the graphic sets, the tile sets, some information on system requirements. And then for the Linux folk, of course, Linux is a little bit more of a complex process. If you're going to be doing it manually, they kind of walk you through the installation on the various types. There's Arch, there's Debian, there's CentOS, there's Gentoo, there's BSD. So if you're not using Windows and you don't want to use a starter pack and you want to kind of do things the more advanced way for Linux, all the information's here. All the information for Windows and Mac are here as well if you were doing that. Other things you're going to be interested in would be the Fortress mode tutorial. Dwarf Fortress does have multiple modes there, and we'll talk about that as we go. But if you're going to be playing Fortress mode, which is the mode that I play, I think it's the mode that most people probably start with, although I think many people really enjoy the adventure mode, some more so than Fortress. I personally prefer the Fortress, but to each their own. And I think it's fantastic that they've provided that. But there's a lot of information here about, the common UI concepts, key symbols. This kind of explains how the wiki works as well, right? Like what symbology they use. They talk about how to start, how to choose a good site, how to control things, what to do once you show up, and so on and so forth. And you can see this starter guide is extensive. And what I really like about the starter guide is at the end, they have a what's next. So that right away they say, okay, well, now that if you've done all of this stuff, there's a few other things, see the military quick start guide. You're going to have to get some coffins or some tombs for dead dwarves. You need to get a hospital, set up a well, and all this stuff just links to, they're not saying go do whatever, but there's, they're linking to stuff, even just fun stuff like stupid dwarf tricks. Go try some of this crazy stuff and have a good time with it. So the wiki is extremely useful. I highly recommend it. If you did want to get into adventure mode as well, maybe you played Fortress mode or whatever. Oh, look at that. World of Tanks. I like World of Tanks. World of Tanks is a fantastic game, everybody. If you didn't want to play adventure mode as well, you can go into the adventure mode tutorial and they talk about it. I really like Fortress mode. Adventure mode is pretty good too, but I basically have no interest in playing it because anytime I spend playing adventure mode, it's time that I'm not playing adventure mode. I'm sorry, it's time that I'm playing Fortress mode, and I would much prefer to be playing the Fortress mode myself. Okay, so our unzip is done. Our files are ready. Let's go ahead and I can close this now. I don't need it. And in fact, I don't even need the zip file anymore. I can just go ahead and delete it, and that's what I'm going to do. And then inside here, you can see there's a bunch of stuff, and you might be like, well, I want Dwarf Fortress, so I'm going to go in here, and then I'm going to look for Dwarf Fortress. Don't bother. Right from the main thing, there's the starter pack launcher. That's what you want. If you wanted to make modifications to your game or you want to find your save files, all that kind of stuff is going to be in here. Your RAWs are going to be where you put modifications. Data is where your saves are going to go. There is no folder for it yet, but you're going to see there'll be a save folder or saves. I don't know if it's save or saves, one of the two, but it will go right here after movies and before sound. That's where your save files will get stored once you have some. And there is a bunch of stuff in here. You could just double click on dwarffortress.exe and run the game, but honestly, you're going to want to use this starter pack launcher. The reason why it says PyLNP, that's because it's a Python version of the Lazy Noob Pack launcher. So you might say, well, I thought this wasn't the Lazy Noob Pack. That's the Linux thing. Well, a little bit of history. It used to be called the Lazy Noob Pack. The person that did the Lazy Noob Pack stopped doing it. Paradexis Errant picked it up, started doing the starter pack. He didn't want to call it the Lazy Noob Pack just in case the guy who did the Lazy Noob Pack came back and started redeveloping. In the meantime, someone made a launcher called the Lazy Noob Pack launcher. So the starter pack launcher, he's just basically indicating, for those who know or who are interested, he's using the Lazy Noob Pack launcher, the Python-based one that this other gentleman or lady has made. So that's why it might seem like a little bit weird. If you don't like it, you can just rename it, right? Just hit F2 there, rename, and just call it Starter Pack Launcher. It won't make any difference. You can just, you can rename it and call it Dwarf Fortress even, if you want to, if you are so inclined. It really makes no difference. Then you just open it, which I will do. It's probably going to open in my other screen here, so I'm going to have to drag it over in a second. You'll see it does create some new files. It generates stuff as it goes. It did launch on the other screen. So here you go. This is the Lazy Noob Pack launcher. Now, I'm not going to need that for a moment, so I'm going to slide that out of the way. And so the Lazy Noob Pack launcher, there's a lot of stuff you can do here. And it's going to have a big effect on things. So let's take a second to just talk about what you might want to do in here. So, you have some standard options, right? You can, reload parameters. You have logs. You can auto check for updates. I have it set for every launch. That's the default, I believe. You can from run open Dwarf Fortress or the init editor. You can also do both from down here, as well as resetting defaults. You can see in here, there's some direct links, right? We talked about save games. You can just click on that. It'll link you directly to the save games folder, which of course I don't have because it has not been created yet. Oh, that's not where I want it to go. Under links, you can get links to pretty much everything. The wiki, Dwarf Fortress on Reddit, the DF hack readme, which is going to be very useful. We'll talk about that. Some, tutorial vids by Captain Duck. If you've never heard of Captain Duck, go watch his tutorial videos if you want to get into Dwarf Fortress. I'm just covering installing in basics, but he has full tutorial series. I don't think he's done 2014 yet. But even his older ones, like his Dwarf Fortress 2012 tutorials, the vast majority are still going to work. And then, of course, there's a help section. Okay, so down in the gameplay options, what do we have? Well, there's a population cap, which is how many dwarves you can have in your fort. There's the child cap, which is how many children are going to be in your fort. The reason there's two numbers is that one is the absolute cap on babies plus children, which is set at 100. So in your fort, you will never have more than 100 babies plus children. And then the maximum percentage of children in fort, by default, it's set for 1,000%, which means that if you had, one dwarf, you could have 1,000 children. So I usually turn this way down, but it really doesn't matter. Honestly, when you're first starting, I wouldn't tweak any of these at all. The strict population cap, we notice, is higher than the pop cap. It stops children from being born. Basically, once you hit 120, you won't get any more migrants, but the dwarves in your fort will still have kids. This will put a barrier on that and say, okay, no more kids either. Invaders are people who come and attack your fort. If you're just starting out, it's probably okay to set this to no, but honestly, part of the fun of the game is dying often and horribly. So I recommend leaving that on. I really do. And that sounds silly, but I think you're going to learn the speed at which you have to move if you leave invaders on. If you turn that off, I think it'd be very easy to get frustrated once you feel like you're ready for them and turn them on, because you're going to realize you're not ready for them at all. So I'd recommend just leaving it on. Caves in as well, I'd leave that on. It's not like you're going to dig a hall and the whole hall is going to collapse. It's going to be, for example, if you had dug a hall, then you decided to channel in from the roof or something, that would then create a cascade of everything falling. Because the roof, well, like how domes work, right? The pressure of them all is distributed amongst the whole dome, and the capstone kind of holds it. But as soon as you dig that out, everything collapses. So cave-ins, I don't find to be a big problem. I don't have many cave-ins. Every time I do, it's always been my fault. You can turn temperature off to kind of speed up the game. I personally find it doesn't make a big difference. Weather, again, you can set weather to no to speed up your game. This is going to be rain and snow and all that type of stuff. Entomb pets. This is by default. Every time you build a coffin in the game, there's going to be several options for your coffin. Do you want to use it for burial? Do you want to allow it to bury pets? So on and so forth. With this option set to yes, it means every time you build a coffin, by default, it will be set to allow the burying of pets. I recommend you set that to no, because it's just more coffins that you're going to need. Artifacts, your dwarves, when they get in a special mood, they're going to make really fancy artifacts if you leave this set for yes. Sometimes they're extremely useful artifacts. Sometimes they're absolute garbage. So you might think, well, then why would I ever turn this off? Even if sometimes they're useful, shouldn't I just always leave it on? Artifacts really raise the value of your fort quickly. So if you wanted your fort to grow more slowly, you would set artifacts to no. Again, I don't recommend doing that. I think initially a lot of people want their forts to grow slower, but I think that's a mistake. And that was the same thing with me. When I first started, I really wanted my fort to grow more slowly. I was like, I'm getting too many migrants. I want everything to slow down. But once you get used to the game, you realize, no, you actually had the wrong mindset. So again, I recommend leaving that on so that you can kind of get used to the correct mindset and kind of get how you're going. Starting labors, this is kind of whenever you get a new dwarf, what labors are going to be on or off. We'll talk about labors later. I personally like to set this for no. So basically when new dwarves show up, don't have any labors turned on. I will take care of that myself. That's what I like to do. A lot of people like to automate labors. If that's the case, you can set it to skills, and that'll be whatever they're skilled in will be turned on. You can set it to by unit type, which means if they show up as a farmer, whatever you have said farmer should have on, will have on. And then, of course, there's no. Aquifers, yes or no. I recommend if you're new, you turn them off. You set that to no. An aquifer is basically like an underwater lake. So if you're digging out your fort and you have aquifers turned on, you could dig into the side of a lake and the lake will flood your whole fort, and then you're kind of screwed. So I'd recommend turning them off. Embark profiles, you can do what you wish with these. I personally use my own profile, so it doesn't matter if you're new. You're probably not going to be using a lot of these, but you can start playing around with these and see which ones you like. All you have to do is click on it, hit load, and that will load that profile. So you can see now advanced profiles instead of default. I'm just going to set it back to default. And then there are key bindings. I personally like the classic lazy noob pack key bindings, but vanilla would be fine. Same with Paradexis Errant. They're also fine. It's whatever you get used to, but just be aware that I'm going to be doing this tutorial based on the classic lazy noob pack. So if you are going to be watching this and wanting to follow along, you're going to want to load the classic lazy noob pack key bindings as well. Under graphics, there are a bunch of options as well. There's the ASCII default, which if you can manage it, I highly recommend you start with the ASCII default, because if you can get used to the ASCII default to start with, you can play any Dwarf Fortress. You can watch any Dwarf Fortress video. If you only play with one of the graphical tile sets, it's going to be very hard for you to go and watch or even look at pictures that are in the ASCII format. Your brain will just have a hard time kind of grasping what it's seeing. So if you can stand it, starting with the ASCII default is best. But if you start with the ASCII default, you load the game, you look at it, and you say, oh, my eyes are burning, I could never play it this way, then, you know, it's now a barrier to entry for you, and I recommend using a graphical tile set. I personally really like the Phoebus tile set. That's what I use in my Let's Plays. But just to show off something a little bit different, let's go with the Mayday. So you can double click on it or just click on it and hit install graphics. It'll say that the settings will be changed. I say, okay. It's going to go ahead and update the graphics. It's going to take a minute. There we go. If you had prior save games, you'd also want to update your save games. And if you had installed new graphics, you'd want to refresh the list. You can also customize the font and all this kind of stuff. If you're new, I don't recommend doing that. Pick a graphics pack. Phoebus is a good one. Space Fox is also really popular. Ditto with, I mean, all of these are popular. That's why they're in here, right? For advanced mode, you really don't need to change any of these. You could turn true type fonts on if you want, but sometimes that will mess up the graphics. So again, I recommend setting it for no until at least you know what's supposed to go where. You could also simplify the graphics folders if you wanted to. It's to save some space. I don't find it's going to be a big deal. I don't bother. For liquid depth, I set that to yes. Basically, anytime you see water in the game, if you have this set to no, you're not really going to have any concept of how deep the water is, because water can be from, every tile of water can be anywhere from 1 to 7 deep, as you can see here. And that's for a whole tile. It's not like you could be like, well, if it's 7 tiles tall, it's 7 deep. No, that would be, 7 tiles tall would be 49 deep if the top level was completely filled in. So the liquid has different options. I like setting that for yes, because then you do get some information coming out to you. And varied ground, that is one of those things where, it can be a little bit kind of distracting to the eye, especially on ASCII. If you leave that set to yes, I'm sorry, the default is no. If you set it to yes, frankly, I don't think this really has a big effect on things. Whatever you start with, you'll kind of get used to. So if you turn this set to yes, you'll get used to what that looks like, and it's really not going to affect you. You can also in here change the colors that are going to be used with your tile sets or with your ASCII. And there's a lot of really interesting kind of colors in here. You can see there's some really nice color schemes. So you can feel free to play with those. Again, it would be the same thing. If we want to do like Dawnbringer, they're kind of subdued a little bit. You just click on load. That's going to load that color scheme. So that's going to be the one that you use. All right, so that's really it for the graphics page. On utilities, the starter pack comes with a bunch of really useful utilities. SoundSense is for music. You can turn that on if you'd like. You double click to run. So if you wanted to launch SoundSense, for example, you just click on it twice. If you wanted to set it to load automatically, you right click and that will start. Every time you hit play Dwarf Fortress, that will automatically launch SoundSense. That information is right here as well, right? So I'm not going to load SoundSense because I'm going to be talking, but feel free. Now, if you are going to use SoundSense, and let's open it right now just so you can see what it looks like. It's going to open 2 screens. First, it's going to open this screen, which is like the log file. So it's going to show you why certain sounds are playing. And you're also going to get this window pops up to say that you don't have any sounds. Do you want to download, do a pack update? You hit OK, and that will do a pack update automatically. I'll do that. And that will be reflected in the other SoundSense window that opens, which is this one. You can see it's downloading things right now. This is on the update tab. When you're playing the game, you probably want to leave it on currently playing. This will show you what sound effect is playing. So these 2 windows kind of work in conjunction, these 2 SoundSense windows. So what you would see, for example, would be like, there'd be the block sound is being played. It would show you here that block is being played. And you'd be like, oh, who's blocking? That's where you would see at the bottom down here. So what I do is I set these up on my second monitor. If you've only got one monitor, it's not a big deal. You're still going to hear the sound and you'll get used to what those sounds are. Now, I'm not going to play with SoundSense, so I'm just going to close it. I'm going to toggle that to no. One that I do recommend, though, is Dwarf Therapist. You set that to auto launch, or you launch it yourself manually before the game starts. Very, very useful utility. Lets you deal with labors. Now, you can set the game to automatically do your labors for you, and I'll talk about that in a minute. I don't like doing that. I like to manage the labors myself. I don't recommend you use auto labors for your first few games because I think it's important to understand the concept of labors and how they work. But once you're kind of used to the game, I think auto labor can be very useful if you don't like the micromanagement aspects. So don't be afraid to turn on auto labor, but I don't recommend you start with it. I recommend you start off using Dwarf Therapist. Okay. A lot of these other things are kind of nice to have. Quick Fort is very useful. And if you're going to use Quick Fort, in fact, there is a really good tutorial series done by Arumba, and you can see it's right here. Quick Fort, a guide to using Quick Fort for Dwarf Fortress by Arumba. I believe his username is Arumba07 on YouTube if you're looking for it. Yeah, Roomba07. There you go. But this is an excellent tutorial series. I think it's only 1 or 2 parts, to be honest with you. But it's an excellent series on how to use Quick Fort. What Quick Fort lets you do is you make a fort in Excel, and then you run you run the program, you load that in Dwarf Fortress, and it will automatically dig things out. Again, it's a little bit more advanced. You're probably not going to do that for first few forts, but you might get into it. And when you do, I definitely recommend you watch Arumba's Quick Fort videos. They're a little old, but they still work with the current version of Quick Fort. So don't let if you look at it and you say, oh, but it's such an old video, March 15th of 2013, it's still current. It still works. Don't worry about it. So yeah, a lot of these are useful. If you want to know more about them, again, Google them, look for a Bay12 forums link, and then read about what they do. There's also a little bit of information if you just hover over it. Legend exports, sorts, and compresses legend files and stores them in user-generated content. Great for use with Legends, Viewer, ISO World, etc. So there you go. Under the Advanced tab here, sound, I'm going to set it to no. You could leave sound on. If you're using SoundSense, I recommend you turn sound on to no here as well, because then it'll just have 2 sounds going at once. I like to leave the FPS counter showing. That'll just show on the top left-hand screen how the game's running. I like to keep that open because it lets me know, if I have bottlenecks anywhere that are really taking up my CPU time. The FPS caps you can play with. I don't recommend it if you're new. It's more of an advanced thing, so I'd skip that. You might want to run the intro movie the first time just to watch it. It's not a bad little movie, but it's an ASCII intro movie. I personally have no interest in seeing it, and I'll leave that as an exercise to the viewer. If you want to see the intro movie, just set that to yes, and when you launch the game, it will show it. As far as autosaves go, the game is in alpha, so crashes can happen, corrupt saves can happen. I recommend that you have backups. So I like to set autosave to seasonal. I like to have an initial autosave. That means as soon as you embark, you'll get a save. I want the game to pause when it saves. I want the game to pause when it loads. If it doesn't, as soon as you load the game, everything's going to be running. So if you left the game with a siege and you load it, that siege is going to continue. So I recommend pause on load is on. I also, like I said, I like to back up my saves, and I set them to get compressed just to save some space. Just bear in mind, if your autosaves take time, the bigger the world, the more they're going to take. If you're backing them up, it has to make a save and a backup, so it'll take twice as long. The compression obviously takes some time. Nonetheless, this is what I recommend. It doesn't take that long. You can also change your processor priority if you want to. I like to leave it at normal. I don't really want, if my computer needs to do other things in the background, I don't want them to necessarily be hampered, complete at their normal rate and be done with, as opposed to dragging on for longer. The close GUI on launch, if you set that TS, that means when you hit play Dwarf Fortress, this lazy noob pack launcher, the Pi LNP, will close. So I leave that to no, because like I said, the game's in alpha. Sometimes it crashes, and when it does, I might want to come right back here and launch. Or I might decide that I want to open one of these utilities after the game has already loaded, and I don't have to go reopen this. So having this open gives me immediate access to this. DF Hack is Dwarf Fortress Hack. It's an add-on. It's a mod that is built right into Dwarf Fortress if you install it, or if you're using the starter pack, it automatically comes built in. You can disable it if you want. I like leaving it on. Even if you never use it, it's not going to hurt you. Your first few times, though, if you want to turn it off because you're not going to use it at all, that would probably be a good idea, because you're not going to have anything getting in the way. There's a few things that it starts with. There's a workflow plugin. Very, very useful plugin. I really enjoy using it. It can be a little bit buggy, which is why if you're watching my Iron Manor, you haven't seen it. But I really enjoy workflow. It's a great plugin. There are some other automation plugins which are very useful as well. If you really want to use your mouse, you can turn mouse control on. I don't like using it, so I leave it off. Performance tweaks will speed things up, get rid of a little bit of lag. There's some bug fixes that are run on a regular basis if you turn that on. And then this is what I was talking about. This is auto labor. This will take away you having to manually assign labors to your dwarves. Again, I don't recommend using it if you're new, because I believe you should get used to how labors work. But if you've been playing Dwarf Fortress for a while and you're like, God, I would love this game if I just didn't have to play with all these stupid labors, then you can go ahead and turn automatic job assignments on. There's a few that I'm going to turn on right now. I'm going to set performance tweaks and pure bug fixes to run. And I'm also going to turn on the other automation plugins, Auto Nest Box and Barrel. That's fine with me. But other than that, I'm not going to bother with any of the other DF hack things. You will notice if you're used to my plugins that I play with, I like to use the Auto Butcher plugin, which is a DF hack plugin. And you don't have to install it. These are plugins that DF hack comes with automatically. Once DF hack is installed, you get all the plugins that I'm going to talk about. So a lot of useful things there. Now, if you are more advanced, but you're watching this anyway because you love the sound of my voice, I will point out the DF hack manual. Just Google DF hack. The first link is going to say GitHub, which seems a little confusing, because you'll be like, well, that's where files are. Go there anyway, then scroll down, you'll hit the README, and there's all the information you could ever want about DF hack and all of the plugins. For example, I use Auto Labor. I mentioned that. Auto Labor will be in here somewhere. Where would it be? Or not Auto Labor, I'm sorry. I use Auto Butcher, which right there, Auto Butcher, and here you go. It gives you everything you need to know about how Auto Butcher works. Now, if you can't remember that it's supposed to be a GitHub and you have a hard time finding this, don't forget, under the Lazy Noob pack in links, you can just go straight to the DF hack README, which will take you straight to here. But all the information you need to know about DF hack is listed right there. Again, I've set some basic ones and that's fine. Mods, I'm not going to install any mods. I've actually never played with any of these mods. Feel free to try them if you want to. I don't think it's a big deal. So there you go. As far as I'm concerned, we've been through the Lazy Noob pack, how to set it up, what everything works. It's time to go ahead and start playing Dwarf Fortress. So let's go ahead and we will click on Play Dwarf Fortress. If you have DF hack turned off, you're only going to get one window that opens. If, like me, you have enabled DF hack equal to yes, you're going to get two windows that open. I'm still waiting for them to open, in case you're wondering. I expect they're going to open on my other monitor, but they're not here yet. Are you not opening it now? Did you decide you don't want to let me play Dwarf Fortress? Oh, there we go. All right, so it opened Dwarf Therapist first. All right, which opens with a pop-up like this that says unable to locate a running copy, because you just opened Dwarf Fortress, so it's not running. So I just go ahead and hit OK. That's fine. And then, is that all it did? It didn't actually open. It didn't actually open Dwarf Fortress? Really? Oh, this is interesting. There appears to be a bug. It's not opening Dwarf Fortress. It is opening the Lazy Noob pack. I know what it is. If you did what I did and you renamed your thing dwarffortress.exe, then the Lazy Noob pack gets confused. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to rename this starter pack again. So there you go. I lied to you. Don't rename this Dwarf Fortress. It's going to cause you nothing but pain. All right, you're opening the door. Fine. There. So don't do that. I thought you could. I really did. That surprises me. So much just open the first one that I can find there. So again, I got the pop-up from Dwarf Therapist saying that it can't find a running copy of Dwarf Fortress, which is fine. Let me drag that over to my main window. Dwarf Therapist, I said, will open two windows if you have DF hack, and you can see right here, DF hack. So this is your DF hack window. I like to maximize it. It only remains 80 characters wide, but at least I can see more of what's going on. And then there's Dwarf Fortress itself. You might think the colors are a little weird, but again, that's because I picked a different tile set, color scheme. Right, that was this thing over here that we did, where I picked Dawnbringer instead of the default bright colors. Just because why not? Let's try something new. Now you might say, well, then how do I play? There's no play. There's create new world, blah blah. You need a world before you can play. Like a lot of the Dwarf Fortress, I don't know, call them clones, but that's how a lot of people refer to them. So let's just call them that and admit that they're not really clones. And of course, I'm talking about things like, and now I've drawn a blank. I was thinking of stuff like RimWorld, for example. You have to create a world before you can go play on RimWorld. As just kind of the most obvious example that I can think of. But the stuff like Hearthstone and all them, same type of idea. You need to create something to play in first. So let's go ahead and create a new world. It's going to go through a little bit of this kind of getting ready. It's going to give you an introduction. Welcome to the alpha, and then you're going to be in create a world. Now, when you're creating your world, there are a few things to keep in mind here. Whenever you save a game, it doesn't just save your fort, it saves the entire world. So if you say, well, I want a large world, it's going to take longer to generate a larger world. And then every time you save, it's going to take longer. It's also going to be a bigger drag on your system resources when you're playing the game. So I recommend, don't go really bigger than you need. For your first game, you'll probably be fine with smaller or even small. I'm going to go with smaller. History. After it's done creating the world, it's going to let history run. The longer the history runs, the more interesting things are going to happen in your world. Civilizations will rise and fall. They'll send out colonies that will succeed or fail. Cities will grow into, or towns will grow into cities, or possibly, downgrade into villages. Wars will start and end. Kings and heroes will be born and vanquish enemies and defeat foes and die and all this type of stuff. So the longer the history is, the more interesting things are going to happen in your world, and the greater a chance of interesting things happening in your fort. If you go with a very long history, you might get some of these legendary heroes that have existed in the world show up in your fort and be like, hey, I want to live here now. So that's great. But again, the longer the history is, the longer it's going to take to generate and run through that history. You can always stop history generation early. If you're like, I'm tired of waiting for this, you can say end, and it will stop generating the history. So I'm going to leave it at medium, but there's no way I'm going to let it run for 250 years. It's going to take too long. But you can I used to do very short all the time, but just be aware again, not a lot will have happened in your world. It also tells you down here how long that is. So very short is 5 years, short is 125, medium is 250, long is 550, and very long is 1,050. So it does give you some info there. Number of civilizations will control how many cultures there are. And this is a difficult thing to I think, wrap your mind around if you're new to the game. This isn't like, there's going to be one group of elves, one group of dwarves, one group of humans, one group of orcs. You might have 6 or 7 distinct dwarvish cultures, and 3 or 4 distinct human civilizations, 2 or 3 different elven civilizations. And they're all going to be elves or humans or dwarves, but they'll have different, they'll have a different name. They'll have different resources. They'll have different, some will be more peace loving. Some will be more militaristic. So having more civilizations, again, greater chance of interesting things happening in your world, but also going to make the file size bigger and longer generation, all that. You'll find the same with number of sites. Very high gives you more places that will exist. Very low will be less. Very high means the save files will be bigger. Things will take longer. Very low means it'll be quicker and there won't be as many. Medium's a good option. Number of beasts, you might be tempted to set this for very low. Honestly, beasts aren't that big a deal. I'd leave them for medium. Natural savagery, you set it for very high, you're going to get stuff like dragons and animals that are dangerous are going to be more frequent. Very low, you have less of those dangerous animals. It's very easy to be tempted to set this to very low when you're starting out. But again, having these animals are a good way to, hunt so you can get food, but also train up your military by having to go out and kill these animals. So if you set it for very low, you're actually kind of, in some ways, hurting yourself. So I like medium. I think it's a nice place to start. Mineral occurrence, I actually turn this up to frequent. I don't recommend going with everywhere. It will hurt the generation of some things because instead of generating, whatever it is, iron or whatever it is, I don't remember what it is, but there's something that doesn't generate with everywhere because it turns them all into minerals, basically. But I usually set it to frequent. That just makes sure I have more. If you're looking for more of a challenge where you got to fight with, wooden and stone weapons longer, so you're going to need bigger armies to take on the ironclad orcs and whatnot, You could set it for very rare. I really like to use frequent. I don't understand why anyone would use anything but frequent unless they wanted a challenge. I'm just warning you, like I said, there is a bug with everywhere. I don't remember the details of it, but I don't recommend using everywhere. I'd go with frequent. And then once you're done, you can just hit Y to go, and that will build the world. So you can see it's building the world. It built it really quickly. This is what the world's going to look like. And now it is running through the history that I was talking about, right? So, we are going to hit 250 years. That was really quick. Again, because I picked a smaller world. If that was a bigger world, it would have taken longer. It tells you that 8,354 historical figures have existed. 6,508 of them are dead, and 60,262 unique events have happened in our world. Then at the bottom, you can export the image and info. You'll use that with some of these utilities to see things. For your first few games, irrelevant. You don't have to worry about exporting. It's going to make no difference. You could abort if you don't like this world. Maybe you're like, I don't like the shape of it. It looks too much like, I don't know. I have no idea what that looks like. But maybe it offends you. It's a Rorschach blot, and you're like, it looks like my dead grandmother, and that upsets me. So abort and start a new world. I'm going to hit enter to accept this world, and we'll move on. It's now going to offload units, do some saving, do some generating. And now you have a world. Now you can always go and create another world, or you can start playing. You can also design worlds with advanced parameters. We're not going to do a world design, but I just want to show you what this looks like. You can pick a size of a world. You can pick a specific seed. You can set dimensions. You can change a lot of there's a lot of small details in the world that you can tweak and change in here. If you're new, I don't recommend it. If you've been playing this game for a while and you'd like to know about advanced parameters for world generation, there's a lot of information available on the wiki and a lot of forum threads that discuss it that you can get into. I've never been in the object testing arena. I have no idea what it's all about. I have no idea, about DF, obviously. We'll just tell you about the game, and then there's quit. So what we want to do is we want to play. We want to start playing. Legends just lets you see the legends in your world. It's not actually a game mode that, as I would call it, unless you're really kind of entertained by just reading about things that have occurred. It's more like a story mode, I think. It's more about details and facts, and you get to read about the kings and the civilizations. Adventure is kind of like where it's like a top-down isometric type. You go and you go through the world, and you live in the world, and you discover things and fight goblins and become one of the heroes that live within it. And then, of course, there is Fortress mode, which is the mode that I like and that we're going to talk about. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, it's going to take some time. It's going to generate some stuff. It's going to advance through a couple of weeks, and then you get to this little map screen. Now, in this map screen, I've never used this tile set. I do not like this tile set, sir. I do not like this tile set at all. Not for embarking. But that's okay. You get used to it eventually. You'll see down here it tells you how to move. I use the arrow keys to move over here. That will move you across this map. And it looks like this map they're calling it the same size. But normally you would use the other keys listed down here to move in smaller increments. You can see that's moving it over here. That's moving the local view. Oh, it even tells you down there, movement keys to control region cursor. So here's our region, and then the local view. You can also use shift and the arrow keys to make big jumps. You can see the blinking X there, which is where we are. If you use shift and arrow left, it jumps a whole bunch, as opposed to if we go back, instead of just moving one tile per arrow key. Shift is big jumps, and that's very common in this game. You're going to find that everywhere. E would be when you're ready to embark. R would be if you had a fort that you had abandoned, you could reclaim it. And F would be to find desired location. You can also use F1 and F2 to view biomes, and N for notes that you've left. Not a big deal. You can also use tab to change the mode. You can see that's changing the information here as well as changing the display depending on what is selected to examine. All right, so the first thing you want to do is go to find. You can pick your size. I like 4x4, so I set that to 4x4. I usually leave all these at NA. I have never found them to work all that well, to be completely honest. I want Aquifer to be set to no, even though I've turned it off in the game options. I always set it to no just to double check. I find that rivers are useful. It gives you water, so I always set rivers to yes. And then I want multiple shallow metals. You can also set it for yes, but then that will only return This is going to tell you where you have areas that meet your requirements. If you set it to yes, a single shallow metal will make the game say, this is suitable for you. Multiple is saying, I only want to know where there's more than one type of shallow metal. Same with deep metals. You have multiple yes and no. I want multiples. Soil and clay I don't really care about. You could also set fluxstone to yes if you wanted to. Fluxstone would be the thing that lets you make steel. I find it can really limit your embark options, so I leave that off. And then you can see down here again, here's your options. We're going to hit enter to go ahead and conduct that search, and you'll see it do the search. The blinking areas are areas that are suitable for our embarkation. So let's go ahead then. To browse the results, you have to press escape. So let's go ahead and move our cursor to where we have some suitable areas. Generally, you can see this is ice down here. And with a world of this size, it's generally going to be cold, hot, and then it's going to transition between the two. So I don't want to be in a hot area. That would make life hard. I don't want to be in a cold area. So I'm looking for kind of a middle of the road. It'll tell you over here what the temperature's like. Warm is okay. Temperate is nice. Either one of those will be fine. Other information it gives you is the what type of trees you can expect, how much vegetation will be out there. The other vegetation I find is important because that will get you seeds to grow things. And then the surroundings can really vary. That kind of tells you, how dangerous it's going to be. So green is kind of middle of the road. I suppose there is gray, which is like middle of the road, calm, right? That's right in the middle. Wilderness is like a little bit dangerous. Then there's untamed wilds, which is more dangerous. There's joyous wilds, which is like on the very good side, the very easy side. You're going to have like unicorns and fairies and in that type of place. There's also haunted, which, now we're getting into dangerous again. So you kind of got to find what you're looking for, and hopefully it suits your needs. So here we have warm, sparse trees, moderate vegetation, wilderness. I don't really like sparse trees. Let's come check over here. This looks like there might be a forest. Again, just moderate vegetation. I'm not a fan of that. Let's come over here into the darker area. Still just moderate. It looks like that's all we're going to get is moderate. Look at that. Other vegetation is none. Oh, there we go. There's some thick, but no trees. Not a fan of no trees either. What's up here? It's hot. Not a fan of hot. But heavily forested, thick, and untamed wilds. There we go. Here's a warm. Okay. So let's take a look. This is where your biomes can come in handy. You can see down here F1 and F2. When you click on that, it will show you what biomes are where. So there's this biome here, and this is what is in that biome. That was F1. Then when I push F2, you can see it switched. So F1, F2, and this is what's in that biome. What's the difference? This biome is hot. This biome is warm. Because I want warm, let's go ahead and move down into that warm biome. So we're in these two biomes now, and you can see the biomes have changed because we shifted. This corner is going to be hot. This section is going to be warm, but the rest is the same. Sand, clay, very deep soil, and deep metals. So no shallow metals here. That's not good. So I'm going to keep looking. And this is one of the beauties of Dwarf Forges. I really enjoy this part of the game, actually, trying to find a suitable place. No shallow metals. Where am I? Oh, I was way up at the top of the screen. That's no good to me. I think I'm going to go with this place. Right here. Oh, I didn't mean to zoom out. Sorry, everybody. So temperature is warm. There's woodland trees. There's moderate other vegetation. Surroundings are wilderness. We have sand, clay. We have very deep soil. We have multiple shallow metals. It's plural. If there's only one, it would say shallow metal. Multiple deep metals. And we also have fluxstone. If you wanted more information, you can visit our friend DF Hack. And you can see DF Hack has already run some stuff. Because that's the kind of thing it does. It likes to run in the background and keep things working. So, what information can you get? Well, I like to do a prospect/all before I embark. Is it not all? Maybe it's not. Maybe just prospect. Oh, maybe there's no slash. That's it. There's no slash. And this will tell you what it estimates you're going to find in this embark location. So it's saying there's 16,128 units of loam between Z levels 122 and 130. So there's 8 levels deep of loam, some yellow sand, and so on and so forth. So it tells you what's available. Now, I don't so much care about, the loam and the sand. I'm interested in the ores. I'm looking for a nice metal, tetrahedrite, galena, malachite. These are nice metals that we can make things with. I would really love to see, iron type ores, which these aren't, but that's okay. I can live without the iron because it's just a tutorial. But you can really kind of find using DF hack exactly what you're looking for, which is nice, which is why I just wanted to show this off, this prospect. You certainly don't have to use it in your first few playthroughs. They're not going to be helpful at all to you, because you're probably like, what the heck is tetrahedrite? I have no idea. And that's where, something like the wiki would come in handy, because you can literally search for tetrahedrite. And it's going to tell you that it is an ore of copper and silver. And if you smelt it, it will get 4 copper bars and anywhere between 0 and 4 silver bars, with a 20% chance of each silver bar being produced. So there you go. A lot of information available there. So yeah, I'm going to pick this spot. We're going to hit E for embark. Then it tells you select a large area, because I picked 4x4 instead of 3x3. So the game's like, whoa, now hang on. But that's fine. I'm going to hit enter to embark. Then you get a choice. Oh, what do you want to use for your starting layout? And you can see if you come down here, there's some good information. Nebulatron comes with 2 miners, a grower, a carpenter and a doctor, a hunter, a lumber craft stores, and a cook brewer. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. I wouldn't mind substituting that hunter for an axe store for something, but that's just me. And of course, this is where we talked about over here. You can load different embark profiles. That's what these are, is embark profiles. So if you had loaded advanced profiles, you have different options. If you had picked starting scenarios, you'd have different options, and so on and so forth. What I'm going to do for now, let's just pick play now. If you pick prepare for the journey carefully, it's where you customize everything. I'm just going to say play now. We're going to start off with a very basic set. It's a safe set of options. It's not really going to cater to any individual play style. Very kind of boring, but I'm going to pick play now. I hit enter. It takes a second. Getting into the game world is a little laggy. There's a lot of building has to go on, and there you go. It gives you a little bit of text. You're in the game. Enter, and there you go. Now, if you had picked ASCII, this would look very different. If you'd picked Phoebus, this would look very different, and so on and so forth. So this was the Mayday tile set. So if you're curious what Mayday looked like, there you go. So this is Mayday. The thing you're going to start off with on Embark is a wagon, which is 3x3. All of your goods are going to be on the wagon. There's going to be 2 animals you get for free to pull the wagon, which are randomized. And then any animals you decided to bring with you. Apparently we have a dog and a cat that we came with. I believe we probably had a camel and a yak bull, or what pulled our wagon here. Any of our goods we had, like I said, will be on our wagon. And then our 7 dwarves that we started with. Now, it looks like we have 2 cats. Okay, cool. 7 dwarves that we started with. Now, if you wanted to know more about your dwarves, you can go into Dwarf Therapist here. You can hit connect now that you're actually in the game. And you can see it's gone ahead and it started you off. We began with a miner, some type of carpenter who apparently does our making of bows as well. We have a woodcutter and a crafter. You can see he does wood crafting, stone crafting, bone carving, also does gem cutting. We also have a mason and a stone detailer that came with us. Then we have a little bit of a farmer who also does brewing and cooking. We also got, who's this guy? He is kind of like a general laborer, I guess. He does weaving, fish cleaning, that type of stuff. Sodal here is a fisherman, so he's going to go try and fish. So you see, you get a pretty good variety. And it looks like our mason is also a mechanic and an architect. So this is a pretty safe layout. I kind of like this layout. If it's your first time, this wouldn't be a bad one. This was just play now again. You can also go, if you want to learn more about them, if you hover over top, it'll tell you about your dwarves, what skills they have, what their personality is like, what their preferences they have, what roles they'd be well suited for. So a lot of information there. Now, one of the things that I like to do in Dwarf Therapist is I like to go to roles. And this will tell you what people are suited for. And this is a combination of their traits and their likes. So if we were to look, for example, for armor smith, it will tell you that in order to be a good armor smith, they need high creativity, good agility, endurance, kinesthetic sense, spatial sense, or strength. Any armor smith skills they have would make them suitable for the armor smith trade. And if they like adamantine, anvils, any type of armor, bismuth, bronze, copper, iron, or steel, they would also be suited for that as well. That's you know, and you'll notice that kind of makes sense. If you're going to be an armor smith, it helps if you're good at being an armor smith. It helps if you're creative and strong and, you know, agile with strong endurance. And it would help if you like steel, if you're going to be making steel armor. So that makes perfect sense. You'll notice that's very different from what would be suitable for, say, for example, a mason. To be a good mason, you need to be creative again with, you know, the same agility, you know, but now the skill is mason. The preferences are things that masons make. So it really kind of is a combination of their personality in addition to what skills they have. If it's black, it means they're good. They're well suited for that task. If it's red, it means they'd be very poor at that task. So if we looked at this guy here as a leader, for example, you can see that he would be a poor leader, only 8% as a leader. So he probably is not patient. He likes to brawl. He's very greedy, deliberately cruel, not interested in what others think about them, easily swayed by others. So right away you can see he would not make a good leader. So he has a nice big thick red box there. You can also tweak how this looks, but I really like using this. Same with military. Any dwarves that are well suited for military tasks, you'll find all their listings in here. It's very difficult to find it where it's going to say, oh, Datan would make an excellent axe dwarf. You don't find that often because it is 100% based on their skills at axe dwarfery, which, you know, this Embark doesn't give you any. So what you need to look at is, you know, are they strong? Do they have good agility, toughness? All of these traits are important for fighters. And then shield and armor user. This is how well suited they are to being an armor user or shield user. And this is what their skill is in shield using and armor using. Same with, you know, people who want to be... you know, if you're looking for managers and brokers and that type of stuff you would find under their social tabs, and ditto for attributes. That would just show you the breakdown of all of their possible attributes. The military ones, of course, being strength, agility, toughness, endurance, so on and so forth. And then the ones that would make them good leaders or what have you would be the next group over here. And then you also get a list of all your animals. So you see we have 2 dogs and 2 cats is what we had at Embark. And then the yak, bull, and the 2-humped camel are the people who are towing our caravan. So that's how you get into the game and get it running. To get started, the first thing you're probably gonna want to do is get yourself situated. You can do that a few ways. All your commands are over here. I recommend you go ahead and hit tab twice. You don't really need to see that little map. You can look around your world pretty easily like so. So that's not that useful. You can also see using the up and down keys, which are for me period and comma. If you're using the lazy new pack key bindings like I suggested, the comma key goes up, the period key goes down. So, and you can see your Z level, how high up and down you are is reflected down here, right? So there's 124, 123, 122. I actually think this is how many levels are below you, and this is how many levels are above you. So you can go up 13, you can go down 120. We're currently here in the middle. That's how I think it is. And you can see ground moves up as we go down, and here the sky becomes more important as we move up. So you can get all the details there. You can also press F1 to take you to your caravan where it first arrived. So we could go ahead and get started. To do that, again, you can find all your commands in here. A is your announcements. This is a large part of what Sound Sense would use, would be announcements to determine what sounds to play. B is if you wanted to build things. R is reports. You can see a lot of it makes a lot of sense. C is civilizations and world info. We only know about one civilization. You hit enter to view the details of it, and there you go. It tells you a bunch of the information about it. You can see that Minkot Kuranib is the king. He's also a fishery worker. You can hit tab to see different information. You don't know a lot because they haven't visited you yet. But there you go. That would be civilizations. Then you can do designations, set orders, unit list, job list, so on and so forth. So a lot of information there. First thing that I'm going to recommend you do is push O, which is set order, not 0, but the letter O, set order. And then I'm going to recommend you go to capital W for workshop orders. And I'm going to suggest that you turn off auto collect webs, which is lowercase w. So no auto collect webs. Now, in Dwarf Fortress 2014, there can be webs outside. Let's see if there are any here. Let me just escape the menu. I don't really see any. But there can be webs outside. So if there are, you might want to go collect webs. The reason I say turn it off, if you're digging and you dig into like a big giant underground cave and there are monsters in there, including giant dangerous spiders, and you have that turned on, your people are going to ignore it. They're going to rush in there and try to collect spider webs, and the giant spiders will kill them. That's why I recommend turning that off right away. The next thing that I suggest you do is you're going to need a little bit of wood. So go ahead and designate some trees to get cut down. You can cut down trees in the middle. Like if we were to look at this big tree here, you can see it's very tall. Here's the base level. You could say, okay, let's cut down the tree, which is D for designations, and then T, chop down trees. And we could say, okay, tree, chop down here, on the second level. I really recommend that you chop down right at the base. And the way this designation works is you designate like one corner, then you set how big a zone you want them to use, you designate the other corner, and they chop down in a whole box. So if you want to chop down one tree, you have to push enter twice. One for set one corner, and then again for set the other corner. And you can see it looks different now, right? Because it's been designated. But alternatively, if we wanted, we could say, you know what, chop down all of the trees from this box. You can see it's blinking all the way down to here. And you don't have to do top right to bottom left. We could do bottom right to top left. We could do bottom left to top right. You can do anything you want within the box. So let's just go ahead and designate that. It's going to cut down a bunch of trees. And also our farmer, we have no farms for him to farm yet. So let's get him to gather some plants. Luckily, gathering plants is in the designation menu. You can see right there, P, gather plants. So we're going to go ahead and say gather some plants. Now I'm going to tell the plant gatherer to gather plants over here. And you can see there's a few plants for him to pick up. No, it's not a lot, but a few. There's a couple more over here. So, I mean, there are plants around there. Let's actually make this a bigger thing so he gathers a few more. There we go. So he's going to go ahead and gather some plants. You're also going to want to go ahead and make yourself safe. It's generally not safe to be out wandering around outside, so you're going to want to get yourself inside. So the first thing that I would do then is go into D again. You see there's a chop down trees and gather plants. And you can pick D, which is mine. That may seem counterintuitive. The way I think of it, I don't designate mine, I designate dig. So D for designate, D for dig for me is how I remember mine. And you go ahead and say, okay, dig out, a little bit of a pathway here that we're going to walk down. And again, shift lets you jump multiple spaces. So shift left arrow key, shift right arrow key, shift up, shift down. Whereas just left and right arrow and up and down will move just one tile. So we're going to go ahead and dig that out. And beyond that, there's not a lot to do to get started. Once this is done, you're going to get into building workshops, which obviously would be under the B key for B, and then W for workshops, wherever W is, W for workshops. And then you'd want to build, like a mason's workshop to work on your stone. Where's mason? There it is, which is an M. So you'd push, B and then M, and it won't let me because I have no trees. Or stone, we have nothing basically to build with. So let's just unpause here to give ourselves a second. You can see this dwarf is digging. That's our miner. Down here, we got a dwarf cutting down trees. There's some wood that's fallen. There should be a dwarf coming over here to pick up to gather some plants in a moment. And you can always press K, which is look. Emphasis on the K. Look is K. Where is it? This list. There it is. K is look. And then you put the cursor over something, it tells you it's over there. So here you can see it says it's a floor, which implies we've dug it out because it's just a floor. It's not a full wall. Here is a full wall. Okay, over here we found some white sand. And then this stuff we don't know. We designate it to be dug, but we don't know what it is. So we can unpause again. They'll keep going some more. He'll dig out a little bit more. Let's designate a little bit of a big area to get dug out. I'm going to make it like 2 shift moving keys tall and 2 shift moving keys wide, which is actually like 20. I actually think it's 19. So I think it's 10 per, but the first one is a repeat, right? So He's going to dig this out, cut down some trees. You can see our dog's out playing, chasing some butterflies or something. What is it? The dog is out chasing a tree frog. So the dog's having fun playing with tree frogs. Good for the dog. Good for you, puppy. So there we go. Now that we built out some space, we can go back to B for build, W for workshop, M for Mason's workshop, and you put it in the corner here. You hit enter to say that's where I want it to go. What do you want to make it out of? Sandpear wood logs, almond wood logs, willow logs. You pick the type of material. You'd enter again, and it's been designated. You can see that it's sitting there. Now there's a few things to know about that. Let's remove this, and I'll talk about how to do that in a moment. So I'll go back to Build Workshop Mason. You'll notice some of the tiles are bright green and some of the tiles are dark green. The dark green tiles mean that they're basically a wall so that people can't get in the workshop. So if you were to put this in a small corner where the only way in was here, people would not be able to get into the workshop because they can't go through that wall. So you have to pay attention to where the openings are into your workshop and make sure they touch a bright green tile. For us, not a factor. But there you go. Now, if you wanted to remove a workshop like I did, to do that, you need to use your Q key, which I think of as query. What do they call it in the game here? Where's Q? Where is Q? Q, set building task preferences. I think of it as query. We want to query the workshop. We want to see what's going on in that workshop. So we push Q, and then we can hover the cursor over the workshop, and it tells us it's a mason's workshop. It's waiting for construction. And then only certain people can build certain things. Well, what skill does somebody need to build the mason's workshop? They need the masonry skill. And I shouldn't say skill. They need the masonry labor, which is, of course, what Dwarf Therapist is all about. So do we have anybody with the masonry labor turned on? We do. Arab has the masonry labor turned on. We could, if we really wanted to, say, you know what? Let's have Datan also be a mason. So now our woodcutter is also going to be a mason. Then you hit commit. Now that is turned on. Blue means turned on. Blank means turned off, right? So anything that's blue is turned on. All these hauling means they're going to carry stuff. You're going to need a lot of haulers, to be really honest with you. So you're going to want to have that turned on. So we're back to the game. We will exit query with escape, right? Done. So we'll exit. Oh, and I had accidentally removed the menu. I apologize. Let me bring it back. That was just with tab again. That's how we got it down to that. So, oh, and our fisherman was out trying to catch fish and he had found nothing to catch. There's nothing there. Here comes our mason with his piece of wood. He's building the mason's workshop and it's built. And there you go. You can see there are the 3 walls that we had seen there that would exist. So this fella here, Arab, which was our, the guy that we had started with as a mason, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, Arab, who is our default mason. He has gone ahead and built our mason's workshop. Now, to build something with it again, use the query key, and then you'd go ahead and add a new task. And you say, you know what, make a rock door. So he's going to make a door out of stone. And that's how all of the buildings work. So this is why I say this was going to be a very basic tutorial, and that's how to install the game, how to get into it, and kind of the very basics on how the menus work. If you need to navigate through the menus, like any menu where there's a list over here on the right-hand side, you can always do it. Like if you wanted to, you know, you hit B for build, which is what I hit here. You can always use the equals. Oh, it's not equals, it's plus. Well, that's a bit of a pain in the butt. Oh, no, it's not. Okay. I would recommend using the numpad plus and minus keys. So minus will go up and plus will go down. So this is the plus key. This is the minus key. So if you wanted to build a door, you'd pick door and then hit enter and it queues up the door. But of course, we don't have any doors made. So how could we build a door? We'd have to make one at our mason's workshop first and then install the door. So yeah, plus minus will let you sort through that menu. Again, that's if you use the Lazy Noob Pack key bindings that I set up. If you're using someone else's key bindings, it may be something completely different. And you know, like you can just even just kind of examine the world is kind of interesting. Look at that. There's a turtle, and it even looks like a turtle in this mod pack. Not all mod packs kind of make sense, or graphics packs, I should say. Tile sets. They don't necessarily make sense. Oh, and there's our farmer. He's out collecting some stuff now. It looks like he's collecting some alfalfa. There's the wood that we cut down. So yeah, it's a very in-depth game, very interesting game. Like I said, this is very basic, how to get up and running, how to navigate the controls, kind of how to get started. Definitely not a full-blown tutorial in any way, shape, or form, but I honestly don't think one is needed. I know that things have changed. You know, a lot of people talk about the lazy noob pack, and that if you went looking for the lazy noob pack, you wouldn't necessarily find what you're looking for. So I really wanted to just, to reward my 100 subscribers who have, a lot of you guys I know are here for Dwarf Fortress. If you haven't played the game because you can't seem to find any information on how to install it and get up and running, I wanted to put something out there to do that. So this is basically how to install and how to play Dwarf Fortress 2014 with the starter pack. I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it entertaining. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like below. It really does help me out. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more Dwarf Fortress content from me. If you have any questions, leave a comment. If I don't answer it, although I fully intend to, and I usually do respond to almost every comment, but if I don't know the answer, I'm sure that one of my other viewers will. So if you have any questions at all about getting up and running in Dwarf Fortress, leave your comments below, and I'll make sure that someone goes ahead and takes care of getting you an answer to your question. For now, though, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.